Today we are going to talk about Peter David's Hulk. And let's get to the cover of one of the issues. Alright, so this is issue 332. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the early part of Peter David's Hulk was the fact that first Todd McFarlane, I really do wish that he stayed on there a little longer because his Hulk really did look menacing. He knew how to draw a Hulk-like character. But he also knew how to make the Hulk, or the Gray Hulk, look and appear menacing. Although I also think that was Peter David's writing on the character. But from an art perspective and a storytelling perspective, you can clearly see that Todd McFarlane knew how to tell really good sequential stories. He understood that concept fascinatingly well, but the other thing that he understood, is sometimes the poses look a little weird. That type of pose of a guy getting kicked and then slammed on his head is a little silly. But it's an 80s comic book. But he knew how to draw really weird things like a tank that looked like that. And, he was still developing his ability to draw like he did for Amazing Spider-Man or a Jetless Spider-Man, and then obviously when he went on to Spawn. But one of the things that I liked about this run, and I'll say I do wish that he stayed on it and got better at drawing the Hulk, was his Hulk actually looked like a Hulk character. It looked menacing. And yeah, like you can see right here, Peter David ostensibly was constantly playing with a couple of ideas with this book that also paid off later on in his run really, really well. And these are the same ideas that Al Ewing used for his Immortal Hulk run. But as we can see with Peter David's stuff, he knew how to be funny and he knew how to write characters menacingly. And in Todd McFarlane's sequential storytelling or cartooning, knew how to tell that story very, very good. Or in better terms, exceedingly well. Especially, I think Todd was probably in his, 1920s when he was doing this comic. And I remember an interview where he said that it took him about 4 years just to get into Marvel. And then because by the time he was doing Spawn, he was 39. I think 38, 39 years old. It's like, geez, where was I when I did all that when I was his age? But he knew how to, this is some really good storytelling. I don't want to spoil the rest of it, but look at, there's that cover right there of the Hulk. I'm pretty sure now it's probably worth $600 to $700 or somewhere around that. And this story was pretty good. It's a typical 80s comic, almost PSA issue. But one of the beauties of this comic was it showed that Peter David could, I guess, as other people on YouTube would call it, he knew how to get the feels. But he also knew how to tell really good stories. And obviously Todd knew how to do layouts and show flashbacks and memory issues. But that was the thing about Peter David's run, he knew that, like, oh yeah, it was during this time, I think it was the Hulk he would turn into the Hulk at night, which was the original idea from Stan Lee. It was almost like he was a werewolf. And then they sort of later made it that he was able to turn into the Hulk through anger. Like, I think Grey Hulk came out at night. Because this was when, like, there was only a Grey Hulk. And like I said, Todd McFarlane's Hulk looked like you would expect a Hulk character to look like, a very hulking beast. And I think that is where Joe Bennett got his idea to draw the Hulk too. So if we go further, like, he's in the shadows, and that, like, Todd McFarlane would later admit that he uses the idea of drawing a character, their face, like he did for Spawn, or just a figure in shadows, as kind of a cheat. But I think it works here, because in the story it makes the Hulk look menacing. Like, I mean, it doesn't make sense for him to be in the shadows completely like that. That's just, that is kind of a cheat, but he needs to study more of his Bernie Wrightson. But like I said, the whole concept of his Hulk, I wish they had continued drawing the Hulk like that. That was the beauty of his Hulk. I just, we got issues like this, and it's a decomposed guy that was brought back and irradiated like a zombie. And the way that the Hulk deals with them is actually pretty smart, pretty funny too. Forgot what his name is, but this is when they would introduce all these random characters. Again, the Hulk and the monsters were always Todd's biggest thing, and Peter David was really good at catering to this, which is something that not a lot of current writers do. They don't know how to work with the artist in order to highlight what that person is good at. And the cover just looks really, it's like a classic classic horror comic cover. This is also a really good story. So if you guys get the chance, I do recommend that you check out Peter David's Hulk. And you can find it probably through the omnibus, or digital, which would be probably a little bit cheaper, but not as cool to have that. And I know in January they're going to put out the final omnibus of that collects the rest of Peter David's Hulk run. So, if you liked what you saw, please like and comment in the section in the comments, and share, and thanks for the view, and have a nice day.